Good morning and welcome to the INL Battery Summit, the conference where the future of energy storage in Europe will be discussed over the next 2 days. Thank you for being here and being part of this conference. To start, we prepared a high-level session with European and national decision makers who will show the commitment towards a greener and more resilient Europe, less dependent on fossil fuels and earth rare materials from sensitive origins. To welcome all of you from the International Iberian Nanotechnology Laboratory, the INL Director General, Lars Montelius. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and very much a big welcome to INL and to the Battery Summit. I wish, and this will be a very interesting summit that we are ahead of us. And most of you, many of you, already know a little about INL, I expect. But nevertheless, I like just to say that INL is an intergovernmental research organization. We've been around a little bit more than 10 years, and we are right now about 400 people working here. We are headquartered here in Braga, in Portugal. And we are doing research, as the organization name says. And it's the kind of research activities are primarily funded by either funded projects, like publicly funded projects, like European projects, or through commissioned research activities, so contracted research with companies. And our kind of abilities to work is linked to our interdisciplinarity, and we're also taking a lot of activities in order to orchestrate or to mobilize efforts, in particular together with our member states, in order to show a stronger coherence and a bigger activity in certain areas. And we use our kind of intergovernmental status to be a trusted partner in order to set these things up. And today we are witnessing, or for the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we are witnessing our work in order trying to engage for the battery value chain, everything going from, let's say, battery production, refinery, mining, etc., but also to the bigger concept of how battery plays a very important role in the electrical mobility, or even further in the electrification of society, and then going into the dimensions of car more being as a computer on wheels, and kind of the digitalization, and cargo more to be like car as a service or a service provider, a part of the society, part of the digital society. So we are very happy now to have a very nice program that has been put together, and we are looking forward to these 2 days of discussions and interventions about everything related with battery and the battery value chain. So again, very much welcome to INL, and I hope that we will have a really nice conference together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lars Montelius, INL Director General. We will now move to the opening session with Vice President of the European Commission, Maroš Šefčovič, European Commissioner Elisa Ferreira, and the Portuguese Minister of the Environment and Energetic Transition, João Pedro Matos Fernandes. It is now our pleasure to announce Mr. Maroš Šefčovič, Vice President of the European Commission for the Energy Union. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. And I really would like to start by thanking Mr. Lars Montelius for the invitation to speak today, but also for that very important role INL Institute and Mr. Lars Montelius personally, together with his team, is playing in establishing a strong battery ecosystem in Portugal. And I'm very pleased to join today's debate, though I regret that together with my very good friend and colleague, Commissioner Elisa Ferreira, we couldn't meet in person, and that my trip we've been planning since summer for the autumn 2020 had to be cancelled due to the COVID restriction. But I can promise you one thing, and that this trip will be the first take once the COVID restriction have eased later this year. There is recognition now across Europe of the strategic role of batteries for delivering on the twin, green and digital transition, preserving the competitiveness of the European industry and achieving open strategic autonomy for Europe. And batteries are high on the political agenda in Brussels and in many capitals. As we could see from the well-attended ministerial meeting of the European Battery Alliance just last week on the 12th of March, where not only 4 commissioners and 2 European Investment Bank vice presidents, but also the Portuguese presidency and the ministers from 13 member states attended and brought their experiences and suggestions how to move forward our cooperation. And I really would like to thank Portuguese presidency not only for putting the battery issues so firmly on the agenda, but also to say how encouraged I am by the recent efforts of Portugal toward establishing its own battery industry, spanning upstream activities, battery cells development and recycling, and also integrating more closely into the European battery ecosystem. And this would not be possible without the engagement of the INL Institute, industrial actors, but also political leadership and the personal dedication of ministers who are present today, and we'll have a chance to hear from them. And I had the pleasure to discuss some of these important elements of our cooperation with Ministers Matos Fernandes, Ministers Galamba, Madam Teresa Ribeira Rodriguez, but my very good friend Manuel Hector, and also the Minister of Science, Pedro, during our visit to Portugal at the beginning of the Portuguese presidency. So let me use this opportunity to inform you about the progress in establishing a competitive, sustainable and resilient battery value chain in Europe. The last 3+ years since the launch of the Battery Alliance in 2017, we have seen a significant progress. The alliance, which brings together over 600 members, has started yielding concrete results across the entire battery value chain. With some 70 industrial battery projects announced across Europe and a record high level of investment, if you look at 2019, is more than 60 billion euros. We are really outpacing even China. And in that concrete year in 2019, it was 3 times more investments coming into the sector in Europe than in China. So we can safely say that Europe has become a global battery hub and is well on track to achieve open strategic autonomy in this critical sector. We have achieved by far the best progress in the battery cell segment. Europe's announced lithium cell projects will largely satisfy the domestic demand for batteries by 2025, driven by e-mobility, which saw over 1 million electric vehicles sold in 2020. Again, roughly the same number as in China for the last year. But of course, there is still much to be done, and the Commission is helping accelerate progress with its flagship policy initiatives, including a proposal for the new battery regulation, the smart and sustainable mobility strategy, the critical raw materials action plan, supported by the launch of the European Raw Materials Alliance. At the recent ministerial meeting, we agreed on 4 pressing priorities that need our coordinated response. First and foremost, we need to see a timely adoption of the batteries regulation proposal by the European Parliament and Council. This is essential to ensure a competitive, sustainable and circular battery value chain in Europe, but also it's very important for a level playing field in the market and for making sure that competition would be centered around sustainability and circularity and not longer only around price. The impact of the regulation will not only depend on the swift adoption of the proposal in 2022 and its entry into force in 2023, what is our plan, but also it will depend on maintaining the ambition level on critical aspects such as carbon footprint, due diligence for raw materials, and the digital battery passport. I'm very grateful to the Portuguese presidency for its effort to push this work forward, which I hope will enable the Council to adopt a general approach still in the first half of 2021, so under the leadership of Portugal. Second priority, given fast-growing global demand for minerals, Europe must accelerate development of a more resilient raw material segment of the batteries value chain. This is essential to building a vertically integrated value chain, and I really applaud the Portuguese approach on investing not only in primary raw materials extraction, lithium in particular, but also in the development of refining facilities as well as recycling, which is critical for secure supply of secondary raw materials. However, it is important that any activities related to raw materials like exploration, exploitation, refining, transport, trade, and post-closure be done, and I would like to underscore this, be done in a socially and environmentally sustainable way. It is therefore crucial to observe the highest European and international standards and involve local communities and social partners. Given the paramount importance, the Commission will forcefully support these efforts. First, the battery regulation will make the world-renowned OECD due diligence guidelines legally binding and hence ensure that raw materials for batteries, regardless of their origin, are sourced in ethical, responsible, and transparent way. Furthermore, in the coming months, the Commission will launch a roundtable on environmentally and socially sustainable raw materials mining, and we will also publish a common and non-regulatory set of EU principles for sustainable raw materials. The third priority is for industrial actors together with member states to urgently bolster and upskilling efforts to address the skills gap. With an estimated 800,000 new workers needed across the entire battery value chain by 2025. This is a priority area for the Battery Alliance this year, and we have asked the member states to include skills for batteries as well as other recovery battery-related projects, such as in recycling and the upstream of the value chain in the national plans prepared under the Recovery and Resilience Facility or the Just Transition Fund, as well as the Cohesion Policy operational programs. And I'm sure that my colleague, Commissioner Ferreira, will elaborate on this further. And a fourth priority, here we need to step up investment in research and innovation on new generation batteries and more sustainable and more energy efficient manufacturing processes. In this context, let me recall that thanks to excellent cooperation with the member states, the Commission approved two so-called IPCEIs. This is an abbreviation which stands for the important project of the common European interest, one led by France and another led by Germany, with an expected total value of over 20 billion euros in just over a year, covering almost 60 projects from research and innovation and the first industrial deployment. And we will have another important announcement in June when the Commission will sign a memorandum of understanding officially launching a partnership on batteries under the Horizon Europe research program with a contribution from the EU budget of over 900 million euros. So dear ministers, dear friends, there is a lot of work ahead of us. But the progress we have made so far, including during the depth of the pandemic, shows that we can put the battery ecosystem with its incredible green growth and clean job creation potential at the forefront of our recovery. I wish you all the best in your endeavors towards expanding our European battery ecosystem towards the Iberian Peninsula, and I look forward to continuing our joint work on this, and you have my full support for that. And to conclude, I cannot wait to see you all in Lisbon and Braga in the autumn. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vice President Maroš Šefčovič. We truly are waiting for that opportunity. Also from the European Commission, we have with us Mrs. Elisa Ferreira. European Commissioner for Cohesion and Reform. Welcome to the INL Battery Summit.
Thank you very much, and good day to all of you, and Vice President Šefčovič, dear Maroš. Sr. Ministro Matos Fernandes, caro João Pedro, caro amigo, Sr. Ministro Manuel Leitor, que penso que também está ligado, estimada Ministra Teresa Ribeira, Professor Montelius, ladies and gentlemen, senhoras e senhores, we live in fact in challenging times. On the one hand, the challenges of COVID for our economy and single market, for our society and healthcare systems, and for the territorial cohesion of our union. On the other hand, the challenges of the future and the need to adapt our lifestyles and our economy for the green, carbon neutral mode of production and the digital revolution. Europe needs to innovate for a successful economic recovery and green transition, and we must accelerate the transfer of research results onto the market, translating innovation in concrete products, services, and applications. This is the concept of coming back, but building back better. European innovation policy places great emphasis on promoting innovation in all regions, including the not so developed ones, to trigger everywhere economic dynamism and contributes to increasing the competitiveness of the European Union as a whole and to closing the very clear innovation divide. No part of the European Union and no region should be left behind and shall be left behind, neither when it comes to meeting today's challenges, nor when it comes to seizing tomorrow's opportunities. Innovations such as batteries can help us with both sets of challenges. They offer job opportunities and a chance to kickstart the recovery in the right direction. Batteries and technologies linked to them can be a strong contributor to a local innovation ecosystem. And batteries themselves have a key role to play in the green economy. From clean transport to storage of renewable energy, they will be a key component in applications ranging from electric cars to household solar energy systems. Cohesion policy has a strong track record of research and innovation support. Cohesion policy invested over 40 billion euros of European money, of course, taxpayers' money, in the 2014-2020 period. This is likely to increase to some 80 billion euros in the new programs. Our investment is based on the recognition that Europe must innovate for a successful economic transformation, and that this innovation must reach all Europe's regions with no region left behind. Batteries are very important in this context. In many regions, cohesion policy is helping build capacity for battery-related research, development, production, and recycling. We actively support the smart specialization inter-regional partnership on advanced battery materials, which was set up in 2018 as part of the Battery Alliance and the European Union Strategic Action Plan on batteries. You have our full support. However, to get the most from our investment for local people and for Europe, I would like to set out 3 conditions and then finish with next steps. First condition, extraction of lithium and other raw materials must respect, as you just mentioned, Maroš, must respect local landscape and local environment. We must address the legitimate concerns of local people, notably that the environment will be protected, that the concerned communities will be true participants in the extraction business, and that local municipalities will not be left with cleanup costs. For these reasons, support from the European cohesion policy is subject to a fair consultation process and on rigorous safeguards for the local landscape and environment. But the second condition concerns value added. Extraction is just the beginning of the process. These regions are much more than just mines. They must also benefit from later stages of the value chain, such as processing, research, innovation. Again, cohesion investments should make sure that the local area also receives benefits from the whole value chain. Smart specialization strategies are one of the keys to accessing the value chain. These strategies are formulated by regional partners, public, private, and from the academic and research community, as our hosts today. The strategies seek to help regions climb the value chain, targeting high added value activities. They set in place key conditions from skills to suppliers, and they seek to support not only innovation, but commercialization and upscaling, translating innovation into concrete products, services, and applications. For example, the smart specialization strategies of the Portuguese regions, they prioritize the life cycle of batteries. Cohesion policy has provided funding for important projects on battery-related topics such as energy storage and sustainable mobility. Furthermore, cohesion policy is also available to support the deployment on the ground of battery-based technologies, for example, in the context of electromobility, the installation of charging points for electric vehicles, or the purchase of electric city buses. The third condition, innovations must have broader benefits for Europe as a whole too. In our connected, circular and globalized economy, the competitive pressure are greater than ever. To rise to the challenge, good ideas must be rapidly scaled up across the EU single market, making part and a chain in this ecosystem. This means we need value chains and collaboration which go across Europe, as well as a broader investment pipeline which crosses borders, bringing a thicker market of private sector investments. So regional innovation ecosystems must join up, and smart specialization strategies must cooperate. Furthermore, cooperation across Europe, you just mentioned it, will enter a new dimension this year as we launch the new Inter-Regional Innovation Investment Instrument. The objective of this instrument is to encourage the development, in fact, of European value chains. It will help smart specialization partnerships to mobilize innovations ecosystems and to deliver commercialization and upscaling of interregional innovation projects. In conclusions, these are our three conditions of success. First, consultation with the local authorities and respect for the local environment. Second, the process must go beyond extraction. The regions concerned must benefit from high added value activities, from research to recycling, from processing to high-end products. And third, innovation, collaboration, and value chains should cross Europe so that all of Europe benefits. What are then the next steps? The batteries ecosystem has the potential to transform the development profile of a region and of a country. However, this race has already started. If you don't want to be just cheering from the galleries, you better play catch up. The Commission has already approved under state aid rules 2 important projects, and Maroš, you just mentioned to it, and you must be praised for the impulse you gave to this strategy. But in fact, the Commission, as you mentioned, has already started and approved under state aid rules 2 important projects of common European interest, the so-called IPCEI, to support research and innovation in the battery value chain. 12 member states and 42 entities are involved. It is important that interested member states do not lose time and integrate the existing networks. Portugal and Spain have important assets across the value chain of batteries, from raw materials, notably lithium, to the specific and technological know-how to to develop end products and applications. And the International Iberian Nanotechnology Laboratory that is hosting this meeting is such an example of this high research capacity. However, this can only materialize if there is vision, will, capacity to mobilize local authorities, universities, research organizations, and industry. And cohesion policy is delivered under shared management with local people and regional authorities in the driving seat. So battery-related investments must be identified in the national plans or strategies, such as the operational program for areas and regions where opportunities exist, as they are drawn up in the coming months. And we are just negotiating with member states exactly their plans. A strong pipeline of good and mature projects is equally necessary. This pipeline requires work and preparation, and the time to carry out this work is now. The Commission services are ready to support these activities. We have platforms for smart specialization and for the Just Transition Fund, which is a very important opportunity also for implementation of these new strategies. These platforms enable access to expertise and toolkits, as well as exchange of experience between peers. The European Investment Bank is also ready to support the InvestEU, can be used to boost private investment. But again, the will to use the InvestEU has got to be specified and identified. So you can count on our support from planning and preparation to implementation. And you can count on our belief that a strong battery value chain in the EU will make a key contribution to a strong recovery and a greener future, also in the not so central or developed regions. I look forward to our discussion, and thank you once again, in particular to you, Maroš, for your stimulus and for your energy in putting energy also in this very, very strategic project. Thank you once again.
Thank you also for your presence, Commissioner Elisa Ferreira, at the INL Battery Summit, and for the commitment that you brought from the European Commission. To close this opening session, the Portuguese Minister for the Environment and the Energy Transition, João Pedro Matos Fernandes. Welcome.
Good morning to you all. Good morning, Maroš. Hope to see you soon in Porto, drinking a glass of port wine. Olá, Elisa. Bom dia. It's really a pleasure to be here with all of you, Professor Montelius, and all who are listening to us. Well, this is really an opportunity to debate a very relevant theme, which is a priority matter for the Portuguese presidency of the Council. In fact, batteries have the great potentiality to promote competitive sustainability and are necessary for green transport, clean energy, and to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. It's indeed very important to reflect on the challenges, solutions, and trends along the battery value chain, as well as market requirements, because these are the core elements to achieve a competitive sustainability. A comprehensive overview of the entire process is the key to innovative solutions. As you should all be expecting, I must refer the negotiations that are now taking place under the batteries regulation proposal presented by the Commission in December last year, in a key moment in the transition to a clean energy system and to a sustainable mobility, and in the pursuit of the EU objectives to reduce greenhouse gases. I recall this is also the first legislative proposal to be presented as a follow-up to the Circular Economy Action Plan. Given the new circularity approaches from the battery design stage that the Commission intends to promote, this proposal is being followed with a special attention. In addition, it is particularly relevant for the Union's strategic autonomy, and it is also essential to have an appropriate legislative framework for strengthening the EU's industrial capacity in this area. In general lines, The objective of the batteries and waste batteries regulation is to strengthen the functioning of the internal market, to promote the circular economy, and to reduce environmental and social impacts throughout all stages of the battery life cycle. It really breaks with a linear way of making legislation. This will have a huge impact in many areas, but we need to be able to react in a context of an increasing demand for battery development and production in line with the objectives of the European Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan. One of the priorities of the Portuguese presidency is to promote European recovery leveraged by green and digital transition. The recovery will have to be sustainable and innovative. Achieving carbon neutrality will not be possible without a swift transition from a linear, fossil fuel-based economy model to a circular, carbon-neutral one, respecting the limits of our planet. The Circular Economy Action Plan favors integrated approaches. The integration of criteria, design, materials, consumption, collection and recycling in a single piece of legislation, it's very important, and I can almost say it's completely brand new. This is why we need to address the life cycle of batteries from the extraction of raw materials to their final destination, aiming to ensure battery production sustainability and ease of recyclability. The batteries regulation sets, for example, sustainability and safety requirements, labeling and information requirements, end-of-life management provisions, and this complexity requires profound discussion at the working party level, which allows the delegations to express their views, to ask for additional clarification from the Commission, and, after the meetings, complementary written comments can be made. Last Thursday, on the Council, the policy debate on the theme has provided a clear overview of the current positions on the legal base, scope, sustainability, safety requirements, life management, and due diligences. We all recognize that this regulation is key to face the needs of the market and especially the needs of the environment. The EU must be an example of the possibilities that we have towards a sustainable but competitive economy. Since the first day of the presidency, it has been clear how important this proposal is. It's our intention to proceed with the debate at technical level in order to approve a general approach on the file in the next Environmental Council in June. However, it is also very relevant that along with this proposal, we look towards new products, especially those who will become mass products in the near future. We will have to consider the whole life cycle, since batteries are just a piece of the puzzle. If Europe's economic recovery is to be green and effective, we must increase our commitment to its circularity. The value of circular economy is about transforming the social and economic architecture in order to effectively reduce material consumption and energy consumption. By reducing material and energy consumption, we are also able to reduce pollution and waste and to regenerate environmental systems. We need to design, to produce, to use, and to manage in a way that increases the resilience time of all resources in the production and consumption systems. We need to have products that give back more than what we take from the natural system. But let me go back to the theme of this summit and tell you about Portugal. We are at the final stage of the preparation of our recovery and resilience plan. We must optimize the instruments available, combining both dimensions of climate transition and competitiveness. In this context, the mobilizing agendas for reindustrialization provided for in the RRP have a fundamental role for the capacity that incorporate to structurally boost the economic value of knowledge and technology in our country, enhancing the competitiveness of our industry through a closer relationship between the national scientific and technological system, the business fabric, and other entities of territorial base. This is where the strategic value chain of batteries stands out, allowing to stimulate synergies and enhance the complementarity of activities, sectors, and technological domains, and for which we are committed to assure a financial support of at least 100 million euros within the scope of mobilizing agendas, as we believe to give an essential contribution to the successful reindustrialization, having attention to the whole life cycle of batteries, as well the other goods we produce and utilize. In 2021, we must be prepared not only to provide an urgent response to the pandemic and social recovery, but also maintaining our efforts towards a response to the major economic and environmental challenges. The European Union must be prepared to take a leading role, and Portugal is committed to support Europe to strengthen its common ambition towards a transition to a circular economy, to boost green growth and to resource efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister João Pedro Matos Fernandes, and thank you to all the high-level keynote speakers who set the tone for the INL Battery Summit and allowed this conference to begin in a full charge. Portugal has stepped forward as one of the European countries able to offer the best conditions to set up a complete batteries value chain from extraction to recycling, so much that a battery cluster is now being initiated to join all the relevant stakeholders in this field. Now, speaking on behalf of the Battery Cluster Portugal, INL researcher Pedro Salomé will provide us with an overview of the Iberian landscape in batteries on the Portuguese side of the equation. Welcome, Pedro.
Thank you, George. Good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to salute the members of the European Commission who gave us the honor of opening the INL Battery Summit. Thank you very much indeed, Vice President Maroš, Šefčovič, and Commissioner Elisa Ferreira for powering this important discussion, and also for recognizing the role of scientific research in attaining the ambitious Green Deal goals. Also, thank you, Minister João Pedro Matos, for at the national level continuing to drive this commitment forward. We, the Battery Cluster Portugal, we are here to support this objective and also to engage and create an active batteries value chain in Portugal. Now, I would not be a scientist without a deck presentation. I just want to share some slides about what the cluster will be. So, as mentioned, I'm a research group leader here at INL. The battery cluster, the question that we should be asking is actually, what will the cluster be? So it is an association which is still not formed, but it's only a few weeks away from being launched. It's going to be an industrial association working within the entire battery value chain. So as already been mentioned several times, this is extremely important to act in all the value chain and not only in a particular topic. And we want to create strong synergies with Spain and Europe. Its objectives will be to promote and coordinate action for joint research, technology, development, and innovation initiatives, again, within the battery value chain. And in order to do so, we need to achieve a critical mass of concerned activities among all relevant players at national level. So, in my personal opinion, such associations are extremely important, not only on the European level, but also or in particular at the national level, at the Portuguese level. If we compare the levels of how much economic added value in terms of GDP contribution the SMEs perform, Portugal has a much higher share of this for the SMEs compared with the European Union, or the average of the European Union. And so what happens is that it is even more important for Portuguese companies to tag along and create associations that can have a higher expression. One could ask why Portugal, where we are blessed with an outstanding pool of natural resources. We have a lot of green energy, which allows much easier green manufacturing. Portugal is the 7th world country in wind power generation per capita, and the 6th European country in renewable energy share. So not electricity, but energy share. And according also to the World Economic Forum, we are also, not only due to our geographic position, but with our infrastructure, we are the 5th country in the world with the best transport infrastructure. So this helps in terms of creating a worldwide cluster. Portugal is now a strong innovator due to a strong growth during the 2012-2019 period. So this helped a lot to make us a strong innovator, and we have very committed and competitive research and development players. So in a way, we are open to the world and committed to the battery involvement. The precursor, in a way, of this cluster has been a national project where, and we think this is where Portugal can punch well above its weight. By mobilizing its industry to work together. Even though it can be a small industry, they can actually pull out some big accomplishments. This is a 9 million euro project with roughly 15% of private investment, which will create 28 new products in the battery sector, and by 2025 increase exports by 15 million euros. So this is the kind of projects that we can start to work with. The cluster vision will be to enable and strengthen the competitiveness of the Portuguese battery value chain. Again, we are giving a lot of highlights to the battery value chain. And we want to develop technologies that considering performance, cost, and environment, what we call the golden triangle of the battery. So it is not relevant for us to have the outstanding performance if that comes at a commitment of causing harm to the environment or to the cost. So everything needs to be connected in a way. The mission is to build an ecosystem of academic research and industrial institutions in Portugal, again, throughout the entire battery-related value chain. Work in synergy to create and deploy the next generation of high-performing next-generation batteries, cost-effective and environmentally sustainable, to be applied both in the mobile and the stationary applications. And of course, with this, to work towards decarbonization roadmaps, and in particular, to act as a mitigation plan for the current climate crisis. A very introductory to our action plan. So we plan to start by nourishing the knowledge base of this sector, then by design and implementation of a research, development, and innovation agenda. This will allow us to strengthen the visibility and internationalization of this sector, which will then promote and facilitate technology transfer. So in terms of what this agenda will be, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. There has been outstanding work from our European partners, creating several associations, groups, and institutions that are already working in the battery and in the energy sector. There's also another institutions at the Spanish, Iberian, and Portuguese level that already kind of touch where the battery needs to go. So what the cluster aims to be is the partner or the interface between the Portuguese companies and all the other institutional things. So that we can, when we present ourselves, we present with a much higher weight. And so the idea is to connect the research industry and the innovative SMEs, not only among themselves, but also in connection with our European partners. In terms of the agenda and a few more detailed topics, so raw materials for the circular economy, this has been discussed by the commissioners and by the minister, so it's very important for us as well. It is an industrial cluster, so manufacturing and logistics will have a big weight. Then two topics that will go end to end, advanced materials. We need to prepare for the batteries of the future, which are the so-called the next generation batteries. There's several generations coming along, and we need to start working on them as well. Very important is to promote circularity within the value chain, and we cannot go into an industrial cluster without application and integration. So everything has to be started to think about in terms of applications, circular economy, and how can this made in an industrial way. Two very important topics where we're seeing some of our European partners a bit delayed or struggling is in digitalization and the lacking of skills and education. So reskilling will also be a part of the cluster. In terms of timeline, in 21-22, we are expecting to consolidate our relations, build our capacity, and start already some participation in European initiatives. Then in the next years, we'll start to launch the cluster projects and start some internal turning activities and really participate in the battery platforms, international battery platforms. Then in the next years, we'll start to have our internal projects and also financing tools so that in 25-26, we can deploy our own technology with the launch of first spin-offs and advanced technical and training projects and training. What is ongoing? So we're still in a phase that we are launching or we're still doing some internal and external analysis to find out synergies. So we want to be a very inclusive cluster. So I should say here that we are expecting to launch in May 2021 with the first round of companies, but we will be open. The cluster will always be open for new companies. So if you're a latecomer or you still think that in the future you might work with companies, we will welcome you. We'll be finishing the work plan, and then we're just taking care of some formalities so that again in 2021 we can launch official the cluster. So just some key points before I go. We want to promote industrialization of batteries. Have a complete action in the value chain in the circular economy. Will be open to technology innovation and the creation of added value. We see batteries as an important key player in mitigation against climate crisis, not only by having as the battery itself, but by having local production in Europe in the full value chain. It's very important to us to create synergies with Spain and Europe so that we can contribute to position Europe as a leader in battery technology, but also in production. So with this, I would like to thank you this opportunity. We welcome the Portuguese companies' contacts, and here I just leave you with some companies that are already accepted and with a strong RTO participation. And again, thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Pedro, Salomé, for announcing what we can expect from the Battery Cluster Portugal and the Portuguese batteries value chain contribution for a green and more resilient Europe. We will be back in about 2 minutes just to allow you to grab a coffee. Come back, please. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the INL Battery Summit. We know that the same way batteries need electricity, most of us need coffee. We hope you are now completely re-energized. We will now explore how the batteries value chain is part of the solution in two sessions. The first one about the several applications for batteries in mobility and also for stationary purposes. We now have the pleasure to announce the moderator of this panel. He is the director of the European Battery Alliance program, the flagship initiative in the strategy to make Europe a global lighthouse in this field. Please welcome Tore Sikkenes.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and also for letting me moderate this section on battery applications at this event. So I lead the European Battery Alliance, as was said in the introduction. You can read more about that on our website, eba250.com. So, and with that, I go to the topic of the discussion today. I would like to introduce the panel I have with me. I have a panel with a very large and wide experience on battery applications, both in the transport sector and in the power sector. So these are, starting with Bruno Azevedo, CEO at Advolt. Can we see you somewhere? There you are. Joana Mendoza, Scientific Coordinator at CEIIA. There you are. André Botelho, Head Energy Storage and Flexibility at EDP Innovation. Ramon Ordaz Badia, CEO at Ferroglobe. Nuno Silva, CTO and Executive Board Member at EFASEC. And then we have Luis Seca, Senior Researcher, Center for Power and Energy, and member of the board at ENESC Tech. And last but definitely not least, João Matos at DST, Director at DST. So that's the team, and we will be discussing battery applications. To start off, so the rhetorical question is then, the big rhetorical question is then, how can battery applications support decarbonization of the power and the transport sector? If we start, why do we talk about the power and the transport sector? I mean, there are many sectors to talk about. Well, the first obvious answer to that one is that these two sectors represent 40% of all the gigatons of GHG that we emit come from these two sectors. So by reducing these two sectors, we will make a big reduction of the gashouse emissions. Another reason is that both of these actually support each other. Vehicles with batteries able to store electric energy will not only reduce the gases from the transport sector, but they will also enable and support a shift to renewables in the power sector, thanks to the ability or the vehicle to grid connection. To get into a conversation, I would like to make reference when it comes to applications to a couple of events that have happened recently. One was the Tesla Day a month or two ago, or something like that. And the other one is the Volkswagen Battery Day that happened last Monday. And I happen to know that there is something similar coming in a not so distant future. So the automobile sector is definitely on the go. and that is where most of the applications actually are today. What is common for these things? Well, there are major plans for electrification, and especially in the event from last Monday by Volkswagen, the connection between the transport sector and the power sector are very obvious. But all of these recent events, not only the two I mentioned, but also others, they imply enormous opportunities. Going to my first question then. As alluded to in these different events, there are gigantic opportunities for improving the situation and for good business to go ahead. And maybe I direct this question to, I choose you, Bruno. The question is, where do you see the greatest opportunities for using battery applications seen from your perspective? Over to you.
Thank you very much. And first of all, good morning to everyone, and pleasure to be here. So we at HEADVOLT, we are addressing the usage of electrification of the transportation segment, and we have been identified some huge opportunities where we can apply the batteries. First, on the transportation, we start looking for the heavy-duty vehicles by itself, how to electrify them to transport goods in a more efficient way. But before, to start looking for the overall truck or buses, we have identified that most of them has a high level of consumption from their auxiliary units. So looking for that, we have identified that in the transportation of goods, there is auxiliary units that are dependent on the diesel engine, demanding power and intermittent torque. And where we start was in the refrigerated segment, that there is 4.6 million reefer units driven by diesel every day, that it's possible to swap those diesel engines today by batteries. So this is one of the opportunities. If you look for those ones, they are responsible to consume every day 3 liters of diesel per working hour, and it's very easy to swap those diesel gensets for electric systems with powered by batteries. That is more cheaper, and we are starting delivering a reduced TCO, the total cost of ownership. Looking for the same applications on the heavy duty and the transportation sectors, if you look for the applications where there is intermittent power requirements, like in grains, garbage trucks, milk and liquid transportation, mining, and machinery like excavators. So most of the times the usage of those vehicles requires power during 5 minutes, and then they have their diesel engines permanently running. So if we swap those engines by the batteries, they address the same usability and turn off most of the time those diesel engines, CO2 emissions, and the costs that they represent for the companies. Mainly, those are the points where we identify the activities that requires high power during the intermittent period.
Thank you very much for those comments. Anybody else wants to comment on this first question? Where do you see the biggest opportunities for applying batteries?
Yes, perhaps I can introduce something. So good morning, everyone, and thank you once again for the invitation. From Nestec perspective, which is, well, slightly different than the one that Bruno presented, although transports and mobility are a great opportunity, I would say that batteries can be a game changer in the decarbonization of society, as they enable a larger integration of renewable-based generation in the different levels of the energy system. On the one side, on the generation, by implementing concepts such as virtual power plants that allow a higher availability and reliability of this generation. At the transport and distribution level, as a mean to overcome possible congestions and classical copper reinforcement, and of course for end users, allowing exploring the concept of energy of proximity, where you optimize the use of these endogenous resources such as solar, allowing a more stable and predictable load diagram. And this can be applied to individual households, but also to services and residential buildings, industry and energy communities. So if I could resume this in one sentence, I would say that storage will allow the electrical system to accommodate smoothly the variability associated with renewable-based energy sources.
Thank you very much, Luis. May I ask you, Andrea, how far away are we we talk about the possibility to use the transport sector to help or to enable the renewable sector. How far away are we in this perspective? What is your view on that?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation, and thank you, Thor. I think that we have in two hands the smart management of the vehicle and the V2G. So the concept of the car not only getting the energy from the grid, but also delivering electricity to the grid. And there's been several work being done around this. And we can see the result of this, that in the last tender in Italy that was done for system services, there are already players that are testing the integration of vehicles, not only vehicles, second life and battery, to deliver these fast response services that are critical for the grid in this market. So there are already some work being done, being brought to market. But I would say that there is still some work being needed to be done on standardization, because until the moment we still do not have the standardization required for the charging for all the electrical vehicles to be able to provide this. So there's still some work to be done, I would say, until 2024, 2025. But they will be critical in participating also in, as we said, in the integration of renewables and being able to provide the stabilization to the grid.
Thank you very much. Ramon, you have a comment on this question, please.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation of the INL. Good morning to everybody. First, I have to correct you because I am not the CEO of Ferroglobe as you presented me. I am responsible for Ferroglobe Innovation. Okay, but we, Ferroglobe, are a producer of advanced materials, and we are focusing the mobility area. We think that the automotive industry will push this sector of batteries in the next year in an incredible manner. Probably we are talking about 50 to 60 million of vehicles selling in 2030. Last year, 3 million vehicles were selling in the world. And we provide solutions for the anode of lithium-ion batteries, trying to answer to some questions the customers have when they are going to purchase a new vehicle. What is the range of the vehicle? What is the cost? And some other things related with this that, for example, is the reduction of the carbon footprint of the batteries. And I think we have to position European Union in this field of the mobility market, the batteries for mobility, because it will be the huge part of the market of batteries. I think probably in the future, 80% of the batteries will be directed to this sector of the mobility. Obviously, we can help in the storage of capacity, but primarily the focus will be on mobility.
Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to learn that you are working on anodes from the EBA 250. We have recently made an analysis of how far the European battery value chain has progressed, and the area where we have evolved least is on anodes. So that is a very, very big contribution. That anything that can be done on anodes is very welcome. That is extremely good. João Matos, you have a comment as well?
Yes, I would just like to add something on what Luis has said. We fully agree with the view that battery storage systems will enhance in a more cost-effective, flexible manner the usage of renewables. We are more focused in stationary solutions installed behind the meter in homes or commercial buildings or industrial. And we believe also that storage systems can help support renewable energy communities becoming more effective. Apart from that, and this is integrated into cities, off-grid solutions also will benefit a lot from this storage solutions. And we even think that they can be used and qualify as capacity remunerators in the future.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to the next question, Joanna, you have a comment as well, please.
Yes, good morning. Well, first of all, Thor, I will teach you the first rule in Portuguese. The yacht is said Ju. So actually my name is Joanna.
Point taken, thank you.
So I actually wanted to add something to my colleagues. I think we are all very aligned in terms of what the goals are and what the challenges are. I just would like to remind you that first, as Thor very rightly said, this moment in time is actually the right moment to have this session and to build this cluster. As you mentioned, Volkswagen made this initiative and is planning to install battery factories 6 in Europe, as we heard in the news last week. So this is really the right moment to sit together and look at the challenges and see how we can face them. Now, of course, we're all talking about transport and mobility, but we cannot consider just transport and mobility isolated, right? We have to look at the entire supply chain. And I think this is the most critical challenge, which is to build competences around the entire supply chain in order to actually address the challenges that we have in transport and mobility. Now, speaking from SEIA's perspective, which is an engineering center that pushes towards sustainability solutions, including in the mobility, and with the experience that SEIA had with the electric mobility, we acknowledge that one of the key issues that actually we didn't manage to do in 2006 and 2007 with the electric mobility was actually to build the entire supply chain. So we now have an opportunity to look at this from a broader perspective, and I think this is one of the key challenges. Naturally, there are other challenges specifically addressed to transport, like autonomy is a key challenge to solve if we really want to install these batteries, and of course decrease costs of operation so that it becomes competitive for mobility solutions. So these are more applied challenges, but I think before that we actually have a bigger challenge for which I think the battery cluster can really make a huge contribution, and putting together all the players discussing in moments like this one.
Thank you very much for that comment. I see that Nuno Silva has his hand up, but I cannot see you. Is it correct? Can you?
I do have my hand up, and I would like to be seen, but unfortunately, that is not
now we see you.
To technical reasons.
I can see.
You can see me now. Okay, good. Good morning, and thank you, Thor, for putting me in. I think I just wanted to clump everyone together, because I think we've addressed different sectors, and actually one of my main remarks here would be that the cross-sector or the interlinking of sectors creates an immense opportunity here for storage. On one side, we are talking about battery on wheels. So a key enabler of decarbonization for mobility, which are batteries, and bring the electrification of the transport sector. But we cannot forget where we get the electrons from to charge these batteries, and this creates a bridge, symbiotic bridge with the electric sector, the power sector, and therefore, again, batteries on the power sector create what we've been desiring for many years, which is flexibility, and flexibility not provided by generation, but flexibility provided by an asset which is operated in real time according to the needs and matching demand and supply. This interlinking of sectors is crucial when we are analyzing opportunities, which should not be detached and should sometimes, in many applications, should be considered as a holistic scenario.
Thank you very much. That's a very good final comment on the first question, I would say. I remember one thing from the Volkswagen event last week. I believe a small anecdote. They, I don't remember the name of the gentleman who said it, but anyone having, he suggested that someone having an electric car would be able to be autonomous in his house, his or her house, for 5 days, which is quite a long time. I don't think it applies here in Sweden, but maybe in more southern countries, which would be a big step forward. Let's proceed to, we've already started talking about it. What are the key challenges? What are the key challenges to be addressed? We've got some good suggestions already, but to overcome and accelerate the adoption of storage solutions. These can be safety, for example. They can be a charging infrastructure that has to be intelligent enough. What are your views on that? Who would like to start on this one?
I can start. Just to jump off to the discussion. I think that the challenges are immense. I think that one topic that was also discussed is the digitalization, and so also the data that and all the analytics that will be done, predictive analytics over these systems, but also security in managing all this information. I think that is another critical aspect. I think other topic, we talk about mobility, and mobility is 10 times the other markets. Mobility is driving all the battery development nowadays. So there will be huge investment, and we saw in the both Tesla and Volkswagen battery days, the huge developments in each part of the value chain of the battery that are being developed. But there are also, and bringing also the power sector in other topic, other types of solutions in batteries, more on the energy side, not so needed on the power that is required in energy density, that will also be developed, and we are seeing other types and other forms of energy storage and other solutions that I think that can be also very interesting. So I would say incremental and between incremental and disruptive in the powers in the power density of storage, but also new technologies that can compete in the hour range and can provide other types of solutions. So I think there's two ways. I would leave it to that. I think Thor that you mentioned, and it was mentioned by previous panelists. All the value chain of batteries is hugely important, and we are in the beginning of this path. So it cements the type of opportunity that we have there.
Thank you very much. Luis.
Yes, perhaps picking up what something that the clamp that Nuno made and this comment from Andrea, I would say that From the environmental perspective, I would say that is important, and I've seen recent studies with the role of the battery that electric cars. So electric cars and electric mobility will be a lighthouse that bring some of those solutions to the power system. And I think that the concept of this second life batteries to be used in the electrical system are a huge opportunity, because manufacturers and OEMs, they will be clearly investing a lot, and we have seen both on Tesla Battery Day and Volkswagen Battery Day their perception of the increase and the reduction of cost we have seen. So from 1,100 euros to 107 and 110 in just 10 years. I would say that this second life business would be a tremendous impact in the way we exploit the electrical grid. But this has some regulatory barriers that perhaps I could add some of them. So on the one hand, this classification of these repurposed batteries as new products. So we do not need to invest a whole amount of money adding new batteries to exploit these concepts of energy communities or even at the household level. Of course, using the car, as you said, with the vehicle to grid is also a possibility. But still, we think that this recognition of this repurposed battery from a legal perspective would be interesting. And also, something that Nuno mentioned, the support of this development of this flexibility market. So the idea that this availability of storage is somehow introduced in the system, and all the resources that are spread all over the network, because distributed renewable-based generation is not only about large power plants, it's also a lot about distributed generation. So the capacity to manage this and to have at households or even services building levels on communities, this combined use, it's smart charging, yes, charging whenever you have the most interesting energy mix. So in countries with a lot of sun, it makes sense that you charge those batteries when you have a lot of sun. For instance, in Portugal, we also have a lot of wind at night. So it's having the capacity to sustain a completely different approach to this charging infrastructure, not as a price criteria only, but also giving it the possibility to, let's say, take the most of the availability of these renewable resources that each country has.
Thank you very much. Ramon, you have raised your hand as well. Please go ahead.
Yes, for me, the main challenges are to increase the performance of the batteries and to reduce the cost of the batteries. I think reducing the cost of the batteries, we can push the adoption of electrical vehicles, increasing the performance, especially increasing the energy density, or increasing the introducing the fast charging, the recharging. We can also reduce the pressure of the governments to develop a new infrastructure of charging. And I think also we have to work on sustainable batteries, because it will be strange to think that we are going to use batteries made with a high carbon footprint. And I think in Europe we have a lot of opportunities to work on this area. Our company is working on silicon, and silicon could give answers to all of these points, because it's a low-cost material comparing with another materials. If the material with high energy density possibilities, it's a material that allows to fast charging the vehicles, and it's also a material that has a low carbon footprint when compared with other anodic advanced materials. Then I think this is the key points, and hopefully we are working on that points.
Thank you very much. I go on, and I believe Bruno, you're next in line.
Yes, I would like to add some topics on top. When we look for the usage of the batteries and the electrification, we see four main topics: the fuel, and we have to look for the cost of the battery to compete with the fuel costs, and CO2 and noise emissions. We have to see and to look for the regulations and also to the quality of life of the citizens, maintenance and usability. When you talk about the parity of costs, I believe that there is an opportunity to do some thing in some aspects. For example, in agriculture and also in transportation system, there is diesel which is still subsidized, and the price is much reduced compared when the company is looking to adopt new technologies based on electrification and on batteries. And I believe that in those segments can be done something to equalize the usage of batteries compared to diesel-driven systems. When you look for CO2 and the noise emissions, there is a huge advantage to use batteries in most of the applications, at least in deliveries at night, during the night in city centers. So we have to give some benefits for the vehicles, for the applications that are more silent and are looking for the quality life of the users and also for the citizens. In terms of maintenance, is a key relevant topic that most of the workshops and the car repairs, those services that are accustomed to do maintenance in engines, now they have to readapt themselves to be able to do maintenance on the battery system. So it's really important to give some skills and to share some knowledge with those companies and with those partners. And also in terms of usability. So when you look for the charge infrastructure, it's very easy to charge our car at our home. I would say that it changed our routines. And if you look for the transportation segment as well, we look for the infrastructure which is already available, like three-phase 400 volts, and we did it. We use this infrastructure, but of course it's needed and demanded more infrastructure available also in gas stations, shoppings, public buildings, and so on. So, but these four pillars are key ones that at Apple we are looking for to overcome and to use even more batteries instead of engines.
Thank you very much. Rushing on, João, maybe that was better.
That was perfect. Great accent, actually. Thank you. I just would like to add, I mean, of course, we've been discussing many challenges in terms of performance, the infrastructure, we know it's a challenge, and I think we can all agree on that. I believe that there's two issues that have been absent in this discussion, which I'd like to add. First is what I mentioned before, which is the issue of the ecosystem. We need to get all the players together, and especially in small countries such as Portugal, to build critical mass to address these really complex challenges. The other issue that I feel is absent from this discussion is the role of people. And I mean, you have two issues here. On one hand, you need skills and competence, and as Bruno mentioned,
Can everybody but João please go on mute?
Thank you. So we need people in both ways. On one hand, the skills and competences to address these challenges. We need people to actually develop solutions, to think in regulatory issues, etc. And then you need people as individuals to adopt technologies, and integrating the citizen in these decision-making processes and the adoption processes is key for the success of technologies. So I feel that because it's very difficult to talk about the role of users in these forums, but I think we should not forget that this is a key challenge that should be addressed by us as a whole, as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nuno?
Well, it's so good to be on a panel with such experts that I'm almost empty with topics. But I would again try to put things together, which is a challenge. So in a nutshell, Joanna mentioned people as users and human resources, Ramon costs, as well as Bruno, adding a little bit of availability and reliability, which I very much agree. Luis talked about not cost, but the value on the market. And I actually wanted to bring the keynote speakers, because the European Parliament, Maria Elisa Ferreira, and also the Environment and Energy Ministry, João Pedro Matos Fernandes, both mentioned very clearly a key topic, which is the circularity.
Yeah.
Which leads to sustainability. And again, I'm just trying to put all things together. And while we acknowledge the value of flexibility that in both sectors batteries introduce, we can think of batteries as a key enabler of decarbonization. And if we really want to decarbonize the sector, or if you want to speed up the decarbonization of the energy sector, then it's a matter of policies. It's a matter of drive. Because when you ask challenges, I ask myself, why don't we have more? And actually, we look into other countries and we see a lot of good examples. In China, I mean, the electrification of bus is by far immense. They have 98% of electric bus quote in the world. If we look to other Asian countries, we see a huge amount of storage. Good examples in California as well. So there are very nice examples, and for me it's all about the drive. Yes, cost is important. The business case, the recognition of the value makes the business case, and I think for many applications we do have that now. So it's really about making it more tangible and making it happen. So a little bit of drive and push for the industry and for the users would be critical.
Thank you very much. Then a last comment from João Matos. And before you start, Inés, maybe you could check if there are any questions. But let's listen to what João Matos has to say first.
Just very briefly, I would just like to put emphasis on two different areas. One is that I think that we as humans always have difficulties in embracing change, and we put high burden on the time to charge, and maybe it's not that hard. Benefits are immensely huge when you do that. I can share with you that yesterday it was a sunny day, and I had the opportunity, because I have PV, to put my car to charge and drove to the office today, zero cost almost, and no impact. So I think people need to start using and engaging. I would divide the challenge into short term and where I would put cost, performance, and an appropriate regulatory framework. And then I fully agree with what has already been mentioned before regarding the analytics. I think providing users with a good experience and the capacity to predict when the usage is going to happen and when consumption is going to happen, match both, and have a good experience to who is enjoying the combination of electrification with digitalization. I think it's very important. And of course, sustainability. This needs to be sustainable, and for us, combining renewable energy with storage is fundamental.
Thank you very much, João. Then going to the Q&A session, and perhaps starting that, I see the first question on the screen here, which has to do with raw materials. And before going into that question, I'd like to just give a little bit reflection on my perspective, having the privilege of a helicopter view. The parts that are actually least developed in the value chain so far. We're quite well off when it comes to battery factories, almost meeting the future need. But when it comes to raw materials, active materials, especially on anodes, as I alluded to previously, and recycling. These are the three areas that are least in line with the future needs. Now, to the first question, where do European battery production companies get their minerals from? What is status today? Do we have any public data to share? Thank you. So my take on that is that we're getting somewhere on lithium, but we still need a lot more work on magnesium, on magnesium, on graphite. Cobalt hopefully will be developed out of batteries. So lithium, especially you in Portugal, you have a lot to say. Anybody wanting to comment on that before we go to the next question?
Yes, Thor. Well,
yes.
I can explain our own situation. We are a European company. We produce in Spain, in France, and Norway. We produce materials for advanced materials for batteries. In Spain, for example, we produce silicon, and I see other companies producing this material in Europe. You have mentioned the lithium possibilities in Europe. I think probably the materials you have talked, some of them need some years to be to construct new factories, but others can be developed quickly. For example, in our case, we need 1 year to put a new factory to produce silicon for anodes, and this is where we are doing just now.
Thank you very much. Time is running, and I squeeze in one more question before we end, and I will take this one because it's one that I always hear. Is there enough power available in the grid to power the shift from combustion engines to batteries? André Botelho, maybe you have something to say about that?
I think that the biggest challenge is that we'll have a lot of renewables, and even we saw in Volkswagen Battery Day the excess of renewables that we see already in Germany, for example, and that they are not used. So what we need to have is intelligent ways and to manage and to charge with these renewables. It's not what we have. It's also, of course, we have electrification of society, so we'll have the grids needing to adapt, but we'll also have to have to manage all of this in a very intelligent way. I think we will be able to do that. We always were able to develop the technologies to adapt to the increasing challenges. I remember a lot of years ago we said that we weren't able to integrate more than 20% of renewables in the sector, and we were able. Of course, that the challenges are increasing and increasing, but I am sure that we are able. It's about doing it in the most intelligent and cost-effective way.
Thank you very much, André. In fact, that was exactly the answer I wanted. Nuno, do you want to comment on that as a last remark before we go to the next session?
Yes, very briefly. I couldn't agree more with André. I think there's a huge challenge of infrastructure availability and deployment. We cannot grow the number of electrical vehicles to convert from fuel to electrons without being sure that we do have available infrastructure and adequate infrastructure for every type of chargers that we or charging profile that we need. So it's a matter of controlling again the sector coupling and the use of both these conversions. Now, more than having enough capacity or power, as it's written on the question, it's even goes way beyond that, because we'll have a significant reduction of costs if you compare fuel with batteries. We'll have an immensely better use of capacity for infrastructure of the power sector. So it's good we provide value for what André said. Renewables will not need to be curtailed and will be used for a more sustainable and efficient use of energy. So the positive circularity around this is immense, and it's almost limitless.
I totally agree with your statement. I'm glad we had this as the last point, because this is something that is often misunderstood out in the public. With that, there are many more questions, but time is running, and I would like to hand over to you, Inez. But first of all, thank you very much to everyone in the panel, and especially to all the listeners out there providing these good questions, which are very relevant.
Thank you so much, Thor Sikenes, and all the speakers in this lively and very informative session. It was well demonstrated that this is a highly engaging topic and also a crucial one for our common future, at least a future that we want to be carbon-free and a fast-charging one for our vehicles and our homes too. We will now move into the second panel that also closes the first day of the INL Battery Summit. The topic is also a determinant one, advanced materials and battery manufacturing. To moderate, we invited the Managing Director of EMIRI, Energy Materials Industrial Research Initiative. Let us welcome Philippe Jacques.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for having me today and for offering me this possibility to really to moderate this very interesting session. And thanks again also for this great initiative for organizing this battery summit, which is really interesting. So what we would like to do now is really after the first session that was really focusing on the applications, we would like to bring also the attention on other segments of the value chain which are equally important, if not more important than the applications, depending really on what is the goal that we are willing to achieve, and thinking of the autonomy, sovereignty that Europe is really fighting for now, with that was highlighted by the recent crisis. I think that it's really highly important to focus on materials and on the manufacturing technologies for making the cells. And these are really the two segments that we would like to dig into during this session. As you introduced it, EMIRI is the Energy Material Industrial Research Initiative. We are an association which is driven by industry, which is driving forward really research and innovation in Europe on advanced materials for clean energy and clean mobility, especially on batteries. EMIRI has been instrumental recently in really the setting up of the European Partnership on Batteries that will be launched under the Horizon Europe upcoming program. And so I'm very happy to lead this session now, and I would like to introduce the different panelists. We have a great session today, and really what I would like to do is to leave the floor to every panelist to introduce themselves. So in a 2-minute discussions, and I would like to start with the first one, which is Dr. Lifeng Liu from ENL, who is the leader of the nanomaterials groups for energy storage at ENL. Dr. Liu?
Yes, thank you, Philippe, for your introduction. So good morning, everyone. And many thanks to the organizing committee for giving this opportunity to participate the discussion in this session. So my name is Lifeng Liu, and I'm currently a staff researcher and the leader of the Nanomaterials for Energy Storage and Conversion group at NIL. So our group is working on the development of active materials for batteries, such as nanosilicon and lithium metal anodes, so catalytic materials that can be used in lithium sulfur and lithium ion batteries to improve the cathodic reaction kinetics, as well as post-lithium batteries, including sodium potassium metal batteries and metal air batteries. So, well, at NL, there are now many activities going on about batteries, including coordinating of the setup of the Portuguese battery cluster, as my colleague Pedro Salomé mentioned in the previous session. And I would be happy to discuss with you about these initiatives we are currently having in this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lifeng. So the next panelist I would like to introduce is Dr. Oscar Miguel, who is the Director of Energy Storage at CDTEC in San Sebastian in Spain. Oscar, please.
Thank you very much, Philip, for your kind introduction, and thank you very much for the organization for inviting me to join here today. Yeah, my name is Oscar Miguel, and I'm Director of CDTEC Energy Storage Institute. In our institute, we are completely focused in advanced batteries, and the value chain we cover goes from powder to power, meaning that we start with the battery materials, we go through manufacturing of cells, and then we have the complete engineering from the cells up to module and pack. So it means that, I mean, everything we do starts at the materials, so we are very much familiar with all the issues and challenges and developments needed at that point of the value chain. And luckily, well, not only we are dealing with the manufacturing issues, because they are key for the future in general, but particular for Europe, no? All the manufacturability of these materials into cells, but also we are heavily involved in engineering, so we cover the whole value chain. Our engineers understand what is going on in the cells, since the chemistries and the materials and so on, and our materials and manufacturing experts are very aware and very sensitive of what's going on at the end of the process when these cells are being used. So it's a very fruitful understanding of each other, and I think it's good to have this overview. And this is what we do in few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oscar. So the next panelist on my list is Santiago Antelo Muniz, who is a Strategy, Investment and Project Vice President at MindCaps, which is a subsidiary of F4Tech Group in Noblejas, Toledo.
Hello, bonjour Philippe. Thanks for having us here today, and congratulations for the organization of this summit. MindCaps, or F4Tech, first of all, F4Tech is a group that is specialized in manufacturing carbonose nanostructures, graphenic-like structures. And MindCaps is one of the subsidiary companies from F4Tech, which is devoted to the electrochemical energy storage. We use carbonose nanomaterials from F4Tech as anodic materials for preparing active materials for the anode side, but we are generally speaking experts in electrochemistry, so we can produce any kind of battery, supercap, or hybrid device between battery and supercap. We are based here in Noblejas, Toledo, but we are the company which is behind the project of the first cell manufacturing company in Spain, which is going to be set in Badajoz. In 2023, we expect to start our operation. We have recently achieved our TRL6 with our first product, which is a hybrid supercap. But as I said, we are planning to have more products based on batteries and supercaps, and to get to manufacture them. We are a company that is vertically integrated, because we have access to raw materials with an agreement with Lithium Iberia, which is one of the mining projects in Spain, and also we have our own technology for manufacturing and also for mineral extraction and finally recycling. And that's basically MyHandCapsy for Tech.
Thank you very much, Santiago. So the next on my list is Sergio Rodriguez, who is the founder and CEO of MeterBoost, based in Portugal, if I remember.
Thank you so much, João. Yes, MeterBoost is a similar company, a manufacturer of the batteries here in Portugal. We started this company to put in the market the batteries in the storage for the renewable energy. So I think we can store the energy and have more quality life for the people. Our products are made to store the PV production in the residential side or the industrial side. Next years, I think it's very decisive for the storage. So I think we can go and grow.
Okay, thank you very much, Sergio. And last but not least,
thank you.
Marta Boaventura, who is the CTO of VisBlue, which is the company which is part Danish and part Portuguese.
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation to participate in this discussion. So my name is Marta Boaventura. I'm CTO of VisBlue Portugal. So VisBlue Portugal and the mother company in Denmark are both spin-offs from universities, Aarhus University and Porto University. So when our main goal is to develop and construct and of course sell redox flow battery systems for stationary applications, of course. The company was established to bring, let's say, larger systems to more downscale applications for intermediate size. And I have been focusing on coordination of research projects within the company, both on optimizing redox flow batteries associated with the vanadium electrolyte, and also for development of new systems, including the use of new electrolytes. So this is in a nutshell, very briefly, as that was the last one, regarding myself and the company.
Thank you very much. So I think we have a very nice and diverse panel with really key actors in different fields of activities, from really building the materials to really integrating this in applications in the field of stationary and mobility applications, and also with a diversity of technology, including lithium-ion technology, of course, but also the redox flow technologies for stationary. So I would like to start with a very first question, which is really to invite you to highlight really what you see as really what are the main challenges and what are the R&I priorities that you would really advocate for the coming years. Of course, focusing on advanced materials and cell manufacturing. So can we start again in the same order, maybe? So starting with Yifeng. I'm afraid you are muted, Yifeng.
I'm sorry. So thank you, Philippe. Yeah, as I mentioned, that basically recently we have a lot of ongoing activities on batteries, and we have identified a number of challenges to be addressed for battery RTD. And so basically we have streamlined the existing competencies at NL in battery research and development, and outlined our strategic research and innovation priorities in the coming decades. And we come up with NL strategic research and innovation agenda on batteries, which actually covers almost all the parts of the value chain. So specifically in terms of active materials, we will be actively working on the development of high-performance anode cathode materials and electrolyte for generation 3B, 4, 5, lithium-ion. And moreover, we are also committed to developing sodium, potassium, and zinc batteries. Besides, we also have some cross-cutting research activities that will support the development of active materials, which actually include material characterization, taking advantage of the state-of-the-art facilities available at NL, computer simulation, and theoretical calculations, and high-throughput material screening. In terms of battery cell design and manufacturing, we'll be deploying a variety of sensing technologies developed at NL to make the future generation battery cells more. So importantly, these sensors can also contribute to, let's say, to green mining, battery management system. And in terms of strategies, there are some key challenges facing the next generation batteries for widespread deployment in the market. For instance, just a very simple example. So for instance, lithium metal has been proposed to be a promising anode in generation 4 and 5 batteries, enabling a high energy density. So presently, although there are already some solutions proposed and demonstrated in the labs how dendrite growth can be mitigated and a stable solid electrolyte interface can be achieved, many of these seemingly promising results, I would say, were actually derived under idealized conditions. For example, with excess lithium and electrolyte, where some key issues like the over consumption of electrolyte and dead lithium are neglected. So I think so more efforts should be made to testing and optimizing lithium metal anode under practically operational conditions, taking into account the excess mass of lithium and electrolyte, as well as, for instance, the operating temperature, among others. Moreover, another key challenge that we see is how to process lithium metal anode on a large scale. For instance, in a roll-to-roll process like that currently being used in battery manufacturing, and this remains an open issue. So for more research and innovation activities should be, of course, dedicated to this end, in our opinion. So other challenges, for instance, in the coming years, from, let's say, active materials perspective, include developing, for instance, high-performance solid electrolyte and new methodologies allowing for mass production of solid-state batteries, and of course, discovering new active materials having better performance is always highly preferable. And to this end, so we hope that artificial intelligence and machine learning will be leading the breakthroughs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. On your side, Oscar, what would you see as really the key priorities really to tackle the challenges that we are facing now in Europe?
Yeah, I think some of them were already mentioned by my colleague Lifen. His voice didn't reach me very clearly because some introduction, but I think I got most of the points. So yeah, I would advocate for the need to focus in manufacturing and manufacturability, because from one side, well, it looks like everyone is very clear that we need to improve the materials that we have in our palette in order to design and develop our battery technologies. So maybe, I mean, for sure, there are many things to do, but There's no need to convince anyone. Everyone is kind of well aware of this need. But what we need to focus and to put an extra effort is in everything related to manufacturing of these materials. We need to develop new techniques to process these materials into real working electrodes and well working cells. We need to be able to upscale these processes efficiently to the industry. And this is something that luckily I think is being recognized by the European Commission. And in this sense, I mean, some of us have been and we are involved in some strategic bodies in the nascent European batteries ecosystem, like the TIC Batteries Europe and so on. So this kind of points have been highlighted in the strategic documents that we are delivering, and I think the result is coming in terms of priorities in the next framework programs for research and development. So, as I say, from one side, we need to develop more efficient processes because we need to reduce the carbon footprint and the energy consumption of conventional processes. And this is a must for the industry, for the batteries industry. We need to make these batteries very good performing, sustainable in terms of the materials we use, but also efficient, low consumption, low energy consumption, and low carbon footprint. And this is dealing not only with developing these new processes to make, for example, these solid state electrolytes or handling the lithium metal, which is the next wave coming that we are, all of us, we are well aware of. Also, we need to be able to produce machinery for doing this process locally in Europe so that we can complete the value chain also in this part. And last but not least, and this is also, I would say, it's not a new topic, but it's a new priority in the agendas, hopefully. Digitalization is a tool that can be as well be implemented in synthesizing materials, designing them, designing the electrodes and the cells to be loaded with these materials, and also to modelize and develop digital twins of the whole processing system so that we can be also more efficient from the point of view of process development and process design in order to, to increase the efficiency and avoid the trial and error, which is kind of the traditional way of doing at this level. So I think these are, from my point of view, some of the keywords that.
Thank you. Yeah, high throughput technology and this kind of approach. I'm curious to know, Santiago, if you are using them in your developments. You mentioned this new hybrid battery supercapacitor device that you have currently at TRL6. Have you been able to rely or to benefit from this, let's say, more digital new approach to accelerate the development of these kind of structures?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I do agree with my fellow speakers about manufacturing, the importance of manufacturing. There is a lot of development here in Europe about raw materials and active materials, and we will keep working on that side, but we have to start accelerating the manufacturing capacity in our region, and we have to do it in a European way, meaning more sustainably. We all know that it's a very energy consuming industry, the battery production, and we have to work on better factories with better machinery. We are working at ManCaps with this supercap and any other device we are designing. We're working on digitalization in the sense that we have mathematical models, and we are working on a model-based design of devices. Of course, when we come to manufacturing, when we will have our pilot line, which is going to be installed this semester in Noblejas, we will have digitalization. In our laboratory, we already have our own machinery, which is connected, and we have control over it, and it's really digital production. But we will need to install a factory which will have also automation, digitalization. It's going to be fully automated factory, meaning we have to do better machines, more affordable in terms of cost, more efficient in terms of energy consumption, and that's what we are doing, and we expect that to be the new standard on manufacturing. Europe has to lead the green manufacturing of batteries. The power consumption needs to lower more than half the cost it has today. It's not only about using renewable energies for producing the batteries, but because we at Minecast, we think that there's no greener energy than the energy we save. So not only using renewable energies for producing batteries, but using less energy. And that's our vision for the next years approach time, I would say, not in a far from now.
Thank you very much, Santiago. Sergio, coming to you, preparing this session, I read a little bit on your CV and your motivation creating MeterBoost, and one point was really interesting, that you had this vision really to be able to bring solutions that would really make people more or less autonomous in energy, so that really they could capture the electricity generated by photovoltaics and store it and then use it when they will need it. When do you think this vision will really be economically affordable for everybody, and it will really be achievable at large scale?
Thank you, Philip. Yes, it's true. At the moment, the availability of the energy of the photovoltaic systems and the price are dropping in the last years from the photovoltaic, and we can store the energy now. It is not the future; it's the present. We can offer to our all people have space to put the photovoltaic systems working, to put the batteries, store the energy. I think the stationary batteries we make, lithium batteries, have the price, have the conditions to work in every house. Another point is the question, why it takes so long time to make decisions in Europe to make things happen. We have the lithium here in Portugal, and I don't know why it takes so long time. I think we can put Portugal in the map, Spain in the map, to make these things happen. The storage, it's happened. The batteries, the industry are growing, and the systems needs. The mine here in Portugal have conditions to work and offer the energy to all people, drop the costs by the proximity, and I think it's very important to make the things happen. And another point, it's the manufacturing. In the manufacturing part, as my colleague said, we need to put these things happen in European way, not only the Asian way. I think it is the most important part. I think we have the conditions to make this happen. It's our point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. Marta, coming to you. So can you identify some action that really you believe are crucial for success, for really building these battery technologies and production capacity in Europe? So what would be needed in your opinion?
So it was already mentioned, manufacturers, sustainability. So I will just go to something that was discussed in the previous panel, a little bit about the cost. Is of course also something that needs to be considered. Of course, I can talk more in particular about the technology I'm working on. That can be on cell and stack level, on system level, and then we can move through development of new redox pairs and establish key partnership within European partners for development and then for production. Of course, and there's the decrease of resistance within the cell and the stack. This is also something that needs to be addressed, and new electrodes or decreased interface resistance. Of course, this is also going into a little bit of detail, and of course, find a way to increase power density without decreasing efficiencies. But I think there's someone mentioned about the different countries. I'm not sure I understood that how difficult it is the introduction, or the batteries are now, but why it's so difficult. And it come to my mind something that is the different regulatory framework within European countries that are real different. So, and of course I know more and also into detail the difference between Portugal and Denmark, but the framework is so different that allows, at least speaking in this blue side, it's easier to enter a market in Northern European countries that in Portugal and Spain, for instance. I think things are changing. There are new regulatory framework in place, but this is something that this is something you need to consider also for battery deployment.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we are all aware, and we all benefit from the political initiative that was launched by Vice President Šefčovič already 4 years ago, and all the ecosystem that really built up upon this along this initiative, and in the framework of the EBA, when we had Torre in the previous session. So. What I would like to discuss a little bit now is along all the ongoing initiatives, and really at the European level, at the national level, regional level. So there are a lot of actions which are launched, and the issue, of course, is to keep the consistency between all these initiatives. And so I would like also a little bit your opinion on how these different initiatives really are contributing to really supporting your needs, and I'm really addressing more particularly here to the SMEs that we have in the panel. Really, how you feel supported, and what else would you need for really achieving and gaining the success, the business really on the market. So I don't know who would like to start with this one. How you feel about more the policies that we are benefiting of, and in at the European and national level. Yifeng, maybe you have some comments on this?
Well, I mean, IL is its research organization. We are very keen, and we are international organization with Spain and Portugal as the founding members. And I think as an international entity, so IL actually we do believe we can act as a bridge between Portugal and Spain, and between academia, of course, and the industry, catalyzing the generation of outstanding Iberian battery ecosystem. And in this sense, we actually we are, of course, very happy to see that a lot of the initiatives on batteries are launched, and we have been trying to let's say orchestrate the collaborations between RTOs, research organizations, universities, and the industry. And what is important to us is that we would like to really reinforce the public-private collaboration, because this is something that that can help us to understand much better the needs from the battery industry, from the battery developers and the users, so that we can actually develop the technologies according to the customer needs, according to the market needs. Yeah, this is something that, and the other thing is that, of course, I mean, from European Commission perspective and also from the national, we would also like to see, I mean, a lot of these, because we are researchers, we would like to see that this research, the initiatives that support RTD activities that will allow us to transfer the technologies that were developed in the lab to the companies, SMEs, and to the battery manufacturers. So we'd like to see, for instance, the advanced materials we develop in the lab can be quickly upscaled by, let's say, companies working on active materials, and in the end deployed in battery manufacturing.
Thank you, Li-Feng. Who else would like to take this one? Yes, please, Santiago. You're muted, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I could say that here in Spain, we have recently, or not that recently already, a plan for boosting the energy storage, and there is a national strategy. I guess that this is going to definitely support the battery requirements or the battery needs, and that will, of course, also help develop the whole industry here in Europe, and especially in Spain and Portugal. And of course, the COVID funds that are coming from European Union, they expect to be supporting this industry. I read a news today about 37% of those funds going to be supporting these green industries, not only energy storage. And finally, I would say also education. Engineers, when I worked in Europe for some time, from some years, I realized that Spanish and Portuguese engineers are very well considered as professionals, but we need to quickly change a little the education program, so we focus also on manufacturing of batteries. We are at Minecans, for instance, we are supporting the University of Extremadura, and we are getting also the benefit of their knowledge on engineering for having a master for batteries, cell battery production. And I think that more universities and more institutes, research institutes, have to come to improve, to adequate the programs, because we already have the basis, but we have to adequate the programs and quickly do it if we want to have skilled people enough for manufacturing all the cells we need to produce.
I think indeed education is a challenge that we need also to address, and not just education for the upcoming engineers, but also to deal with the current workers in the field of automotive industry or the other industry that will be impacted by the transition to these renewable energies and to batteries especially. So that really we can also bring them with the tools that they will need really to change the work they are currently doing, and to benefit from also from the opportunity that will come from the new solution that will come up on the market, of course. Yeah. Okay, someone else would like to comment a little bit on these questions of policies and initiatives. Well, view from Brussels, you know, indeed we see a lot of stakeholders coming from Portugal, from Spain in that field, and well, one initiative I also have in mind, which is this interregional S3 partnership on advanced materials for batteries, where Spain is also very much involving. Are you? I don't know if some of you are directly involved in this, and how you see potential opportunities between the different regions the issue here is really to align the respective strategic agendas, of course, but I think there is also some opportunity there in addition to the IPCEIs and the more centralized initiative like the partnership, the European Partnership on Batteries, which will be launched under Horizon Europe. There are additional initiatives that also need to be considered. So I don't know, that was not really foreseen, but I was just wondering whether some of you have some ongoing activities in this interregional S3 initiative. No, apparently not.
No, not at the moment. I have in the past when I was a researcher at the university. It's in the Interreg, yes, initiatives, but not at the moment in the field of batteries. But can I add before someone mentioned education, and I just reminded that also maybe there is some role to be done for the general public, because I think there was, when we speak about putting a battery either in an apartment building, a residential or a factory, there is some kind of people are a bit, I won't say afraid, it's too strong of a word, but they have some, they're not so comfortable with that. I guess there's also some work to be done to explain to the general public about batteries, and not only about the costs and sustainability, but about safety and how can they benefit from it, and maybe it's also about educational part also regarding the installation of batteries. I guess they wanted this, don't want it too close, I guess. But this is just something also come to my mind when someone mentioned education.
Okay, thank you. Yifeng, I think you wanted also to intervene.
I would also like to something about this education, training, and reskilling. As I mentioned, we have recently come up with NL strategy, strategic research and innovation agenda on batteries, where we also included dedicated programs on education, training, and reskilling workforces. I think, I mean, already mentioned by many previous speakers, and this is actually very important to the sustainable development of the battery industry in Europe. And we hope that we can also contribute to this respect. Thank you.
Okay. I think now it's time to have a look at the question that came up from the audience. So there is a first one, which and I'm quoting, which says, European Commission says that we need to start now, but apparently there are still a few bottlenecks in our way to manufacture safer, fast charging and more efficient batteries. What would you name as the most challenging one? I guess the most challenging bottleneck. Anyone would like to comment on or to reply to this one? I'm not sure there is one unique answer, but in your opinion, what would be the most challenging bottleneck that we are facing really to be able to manufacture these safer and fast charging, more efficient batteries? Sergio, please.
Yes. Thank you, Philip. I think the most challenging and the bottleneck is the access to the materials and the industry to make the things happen, because we are fully dependent of the material from China. And what we can do until this change, I think until this change, I don't think we can make this happen. Our difficulty in the place to manufacture the batteries to put in the market was the access of the materials. If we access these materials only have in China, and the costs are grow up every day, I think the European people need to know what happened and what we can do to make this happen. So in my opinion, the bottleneck is the access to raw materials and to put industry working in the right side. Thanks.
Okay. Santiago, I think you wanted also to comment on this one.
Yeah, hello. I think that one of the biggest bottlenecks right now is the availability of manufacturing technology. We have, well, after the power day from Volkswagen, I don't know, but it was supposed to be like 600 of gigawatt hour capacity production being installed in Europe, and we are all waiting, all the projects are waiting for machines, for manufacturing technologies coming from Asia. So there's really a bottleneck to get the machines we need to start producing. I guess, as I said before, that we need to have our own manufacturing technology with completely new machines, with completely new technology. And so we will be able to start producing in a shorter period. For instance, in our case, we reduced the time in 2 years just by building our own machines. And the second point is also the investment we need. I mean, it's not only about European Union support or official or the state support. Right now, all the main projects, the support comes from automotive partners, and I think that other companies need to understand the importance of batteries in their industries, like energy storage. Of course, they know, but they are not the most popular. And I think that many other companies should join the battery revolution and give support with their own investments. Those are, for me, the two key points to accelerate the creation of factories in Europe. And well, I hope that we go forward on those two things and we accelerate it.
Okay. Oscar, I think you wanted also to comment here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very much, agree with what has been said here. I mean, of course, these challenges in the question are all of them relevant, but adding on top of what my colleagues have already said, I think for Europe it's very, very critical to be as much technological and industrially independent as we can in terms of both access to raw materials and to battery-grade materials, also in terms of the machinery and personal skills that we have in Europe, because otherwise we will always be relying on, let's say, foreign capabilities, products, materials, and so on. And at the end, we need to compete with them. And to be stronger in our position, we need to develop local capabilities there. But I would also like to mention a topic that is always on top of any other priority, which is sustainability, because as we already know, this is a critical challenge. Traditionally, battery industry, is a very high consuming, energy consuming industry. It has an environmental impact. And this is something that the general public and the end customers of the battery products are aware of. So we need not only to clean the face of the batteries industry, but from the inside. So we need to use as much sustainable materials as we can. We need to process them in the cleanest and most efficient way. And at the end, the carbon footprint of the whole batteries that we intend to produce and to use in Europe need to be sustainable, because otherwise we are shifting our emissions to somewhere else or some other part in the value chain, and we will not be substituting the current situation. I think this is what I will highlight.
Yeah, and I think there is one word that was maybe not explicitly mentioned, but which is present in all your minds, which is the recyclability and really the circular economy that we need to put in place also to gain more and more autonomy and to reduce the dependency on raw materials coming from outside Europe. And this, of course, keeping in mind that we want to achieve this reduced footprint from the industry, like you mentioned. I cannot more than agree with all what you said. Before we conclude, if we still have 2 minutes, there is a question which came also from the audience, which is interesting because it's not at all covering the technology that we are focusing on currently in either let's say the electrochemical technologies, either lithium-ion or redox flow. But the question was, what do you think about the potential of the cathode batteries compared to these electrochemical technologies? So these cathode batteries are this system for energy storage where electricity is stored in thermal energy instead of chemical energy. Any experience, any opinion on this from one of you? And it's really coming a little, taking us all by surprise, but Oscar, yes, please.
Yeah, I don't have experience in thermal energy storage, right? But I will go to the common idea of hybridization. I mean, the future is very, very broad. There are many applications there, not only end user or consumer applications, also industrial and so on. So I think it will be room for any solution and any technology that we devise. I mean, including thermal energy management and storage and delivery, electricity, storage in batteries, also hydrogen, which is the other key word that nowadays is having a second wave of interest. So I think, generally speaking, it will be room for all these solutions together because the future is very complex. The landscape is, I mean, is composed of very different applications, and I'm sure we can combine them into hybrid solutions to solve all these needs that we have in the future.
Okay, I think this will be the closing words for our session. I think that our time now is over. So I would like to thank you all for your contribution and thank again the organizer for offering us the opportunity to debate on the importance of advanced materials and manufacturing technologies. And I will now bring it over to the organizer for the final conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philippe, Jacques, and also to the speakers of this panel on advanced materials and batteries manufacturing. Before closing the first day of the INL Battery Summit, we'll leave you with a sneak preview about what you can expect from the second one tomorrow morning. We open with the Portuguese Secretary of State of Energy, João Galamba. We will then have an additional overview of the batteries, of the Iberian batteries landscape, now from the Spanish side, with Luis Santos Moro, President of the Battery Plat and Head of Innovation at EDP Spain. In session 3, we will discuss raw materials for the circular economy, covering green mining, sustainable processing, and also recycling and recovery. And in session 4, we will debate the future of batteries, its challenges and opportunities. To close the INL Battery Summit, the Portuguese Minister of Science, Technology and Higher Education, Manuel Heitor. All good reasons to join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central European Time. Bring your questions for the debate. Thank you for being part of the future. See you tomorrow.